Okay, Michael, we are ready on the tech side.
Good afternoon, and thank you for viewing the September 30th special meeting of the Arcata City Council. The City Council meeting is being held as a teleconference in response to local efforts to reduce the spread of the COVID-19 virus. We want to thank the community for their efforts to slow the spread of COVID-19 in Arcata. We're all seeing the increase in cases throughout the state and the nation. We want Arcata to show the world that by supporting masking and social distancing, we can keep our curve flat, our community healthy, and businesses open. Please support safe shopping by masking up in Arcata. Reminder that this meeting has been noticed as a special and non-regular meeting, and as such, public comment should relate only to items on today's agenda. If you wish to make public comment during the meeting, either at the one public comment period or for an individual agenda item, there are two ways to do so. One, if you are logged onto the Zoom meeting webinar, click on raise your hand on the right side of your screen. When it is time for public comment on the item on which you wish to speak, the clerk will unmute you. You will have 2 minutes to comment. The second way is you can access the meeting by phone. Call the number at the bottom of the screen, enter meeting ID at the bottom of the screen, press *9 on your phone. This will raise your hand. When it is time for public comment on the item on which you wish to speak, the clerk will unmute your phone. You will hear a prompt that will indicate your phone is unmuted. You will have 2 minutes to comment. City Clerk, will you please call the roll?
You're on mute, Bridget.
Mayor Winkler?
Here.
Vice Mayor Patino?
Here.
Councilmember Pereira?
Here.
Councilmember Watson is absent, but we have a quorum.
Do we have any public comments for this special meeting?
We do not have any public comments at this time.
Next is consent calendar. All matters on the consent calendar are considered to be routine by the City Council and are enacted in one motion. There is no separate discussion of any of these items. If discussion is required, that item is removed from the consent calendar and considered separately. At the end of the reading of the consent calendar, council members or members of the public can request that an item be removed for separate discussion. Item A, declare a continuation of the local emergency related to the coronavirus pandemic. B, approve the response to 2019-2020 grand jury report, quote, a community divided, unquote. Authorize the city manager and police chief to sign their respective responses and direct staff to forward them to the presiding judge of the Humboldt County Superior Court. Is there any council member that would like to remove an item?
No, for me.
No, thank you.
Right. Is there any member of the public or staff that requests an item be removed from the consent calendar?
There are currently no public attendees, and staff should be fine.
May I have a motion on the consent calendar?
I'll move to approve the consent calendar, items A and B.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second on the consent calendar. We'll poll the council members. Councilmember Pereira.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Patino.
Aye.
And Councilmember Watson is absent, and I vote aye. Next is old business. Adoption of urgency ordinance 1536, extending ordinance numbers 1532, 1533, and 1534. Temporary restrictions on eviction of commercial tenants due to non-payment of rent because of COVID-19. May we start with the staff report from City Attorney Diamond?
Good afternoon, Mayor, and there we go. You had your Mayor and council members. You had your
right.
camera covered for a moment there, Mr. Mayor. The state adopted legislation in August that essentially preempts local governments from adopting temporary eviction provisions or protections for residential tenants. And those protections at the state level are in effect until February 1 of 2021. The city's urgency ordinance expires today. And the question is whether the city council is interested in extending the protections that the city had adopted for commercial tenants, which are not covered by the state law. There is a proposed ordinance in the agenda packet. It is urgency ordinance number 1536. If you are interested in extending for the commercial tenants only, and the proposed ordinance would have an expiration date consistent with the state law for residential tenants, which is February 1 of 2021. So that I can answer any questions or explain more if you have any interest in that. So I'll turn it over to you.
So questions or comments, Vice Mayor Patino?
Yeah, let me understand this. We currently have an ordinance for residential tenants that expires today.
We currently have an ordinance for both residential and commercial.
And expires today.
Yes.
And
Yes.
Is there any reason for us not to just continue that as it is?
It's confusing, that's all. And there's no need. The state protections are actually a somewhat larger in scope if you are interested in protecting the tenants equally. We wouldn't be able to anyway, under state law, adopt a new ordinance after August 19. The state prohibits adopting any additional or continuing existing residential protections until next February. So we couldn't do that anyway, but the state protections are equivalent to the city in almost all regards. It's a slightly shorter payback time period, and the tenants are required to pay 25%. There's slightly larger reasons for having COVID-19 financial distress that would qualify a residential tenant for the eviction protection. There's a catch-all for quote other circumstances, and the other circumstances would be anything related to COVID-19 pandemic that reduces the tenant's income or increases the tenant's expenses. And the Arcata ordinance doesn't have a broad catch-all like that. So to answer your very specific question, Paul, no, we are not in a position to legally extend the residential protections at all. So we could, though, extend the commercial protections.
Okay, thanks. I'm clear now.
Councilmember Pereira, questions or comments?
I mean, grateful for the state for putting forward these protections so it's uniform across the state. I mean, I'm open to us continuing for commercial. We're seeing the impact to small businesses here locally. So I think there's a justification to continue those protections.
Right. Thank you. And I agree that that we're doing what we're allowed to by state law for residential tenants. We have so far, and we can't further, according to the city attorney. And so I very much support continuing those protections for commercial tenants. So do we have any members of the public commenting on this item?
We do not have any members of the public present.
So I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to adopt urgency ordinance number 1536, extending ordinance number 1532, 33, and 1534, temporary restrictions on evictions of commercial tenants due to non-payment of rent because of COVID-19.
I'll second.
And excuse me, please waive reading of the text and consent to read by title.
Sorry, and waive reading of the text and consent to read by title only. Thank you.
Right, we have a motion and a second. I will do a roll call vote. Vice Mayor Patino,
Yes.
Councilmember Pereira,
Aye.
and Councilmember Watson is absent, and I vote aye. Motion passes. We have nothing else on the agenda, so we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you.